Step into my kitchen, and I'll conjure up a potion for you to use for love, for wealth, or for health. Just step inside.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. How is everyone doing on this Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, I should say? Welcome to Yemima's World, the Jelly Moose's Cafe. I am your hostess, Yemima, and it is good to be Black once again. I'm still kind of on this new kick of trying StreamYard to see how it does with me, with my audios and soon come videos. It is Sunday afternoon, and I wanted to bring a new segment onto the platform. And this is going to be Hoodoo Sunday, Sundae, because this is the Jelly Moose's Cafe. And on Sundays, we serve up Sundays. And what is going to be in our Sunday today? Well, I have I won't say friends, but I have acquaintances, or I should say there are groups that I'm a part of on social media. And it's a lot of African American people that are in the diaspora that are going back to their roots of African spirituality and the different things that our ancestors used to do. We are now beginning to return to those things, Sankofa, if you will. We're going back to get those things that we lost. And I hear a lot of people say that there are no children's books about different African traditions, African traditional sciences. I have several that are geared for children, and I'm going to read one tonight. And I think what I'm going to do each Sunday is maybe discuss one. I won't read the whole books because a lot of the books that I have are really, really long and thick, and it would take me a whole Sunday to read them. So this one is a short one, and it is called The Conjure Woman. And I know a lot of people have different ideas of what conjure is. And so to be clear, uh, this is what conjure, the definitions that I found online. The conjure is a loosely bound, and I don't even believe that loosely bound. I believe conjure is tightly knitted into the fabric of African American people in the diaspora who do practice different types of African traditional religions. But it says conjure is a loosely bound set of spiritual religious practices part of African American culture. A conjure woman or man is a person the community goes to for healing or help. They hold a position of power among their group and are both feared and admired. Uh, Most of the conjure men and women on the plantation, especially the men. The conjure men were actually the ministers that the oppressors had put in place to rule over and to do that sermons on Sundays. They would give the sermon about obeying your master in front of him, and then they would go down to the Brush Harbor. And I'm going to read a story about that as well. But tonight we are reading The Conjure Woman. Let me get comfortable. We're reading The Conjure Woman, and it is written by William Miller, illustrated by Taria D. Schaefer. All right, this is called The Conjure Woman. All right. Madame Zena, the Conjure Woman, lived alone in the woods. Her house had no windows, and the doors was always shut. Gourds and other vines hung down from her roof. A crow made its nest in her chimney. Some people feared Madame Zena. They said she made the moon burn red, killed stray calves, turned the river into salt. But when a child was sick, when the doctor and the preacher had no answers, the worried parents, they turned to Madame Zena. One night, a boy named Toby burned with fever. His body ached, and all he wanted to do was sleep. His mother and father carried him from their cabin through the freezing night woods, all the way to the conjure woman's house. Madame Zena took the boy into her arms and closed the door. Around his neck, she tied a bag of herbs. Around them both, she drew a circle. And then she sang a song. Strange words, soft music right into his ear. Together they flew through the night, above the winter fields, across the dark ocean, to their African homeland. In a village beside a stream, Toby met his ancestors. There were chiefs and princesses, wise men and beggars, children hiding behind their mothers' skirts. They opened their arms to welcome him, made a bed for him beside the roaring fire. Then the old ones formed a circle around his bed and prayed in voices that rang through the night. A tall man brushed his face with a bright green feather. Another cooled his skin with oil from a coconut. A girl, no bigger than Toby, gave him a cup of strong black tea. It tasted of sweet gum and pepper, roots that grew in the wild forest. At last, the conjure woman knelt beside his bed, blew a handful of dust, red and gold, into his eyes. Toby looked around the circle, saw himself reflected in all the eyes of his people. He felt strong again, strong enough to get up from his bed, touch the faces of the ones who healed him. Toby held tight, waved goodbye, and as he and the conjure woman rose above the fire, once more they crossed the dark ocean, flew above the winter fields. Once more they stood in the circle, drawn by the conjure woman. Madame Zena opened the door of her house. His parents took the boy from her arms, kissed his smiling face. Toby tried to tell them about his journey, about the ocean and the village, and the old ones who had healed him, but they didn't hear. They were only glad to have him back, safe and well again. Madame Zena, the conjure woman, blessed the little family and left them to their joy. Short and sweet, but it has a lot of information in here when it talks about our ancestors and when the doctors didn't have an answer, and when the minister, the priest, the preacher, the pastor didn't have an answer. There was always someone, whether it was a man or a woman, someone in the woods that lived off the road that they could go to help heal whatever was bothering them. I remember growing up, we lived down a long dirt road. And even further back from us, there was a woman who lived way, way back in the woods. And her name was Miss Audie Stone. And I remember Miss Stone, her grandson used to come and play with my brothers. And at night, we would see Miss Stone would walk, Miss Audie would walk up the road, and she had a long stick that she carried with her. And she would just stand at the top of the road and she would just say his name. His name was Calvin, but she called him Caboo. And she would just scream his name and he would come home. But I never saw her during the day. She lived in a really old house, and I believe truly with all my heart that she was a conjure woman. And in the story, we heard that uh, the young boy took a trip with the conjure woman to Africa, and he got to meet his ancestors and they healed him. So it's kind of like he was astral projecting himself with the conjure woman. And if you know anything about the story about Queen Mother Harriet Tubman, then you know that she also would have dreams of her flying and meeting ancestors, and they would give her wisdom on where to go and what to do when she was making her escape to freedom. So we have conjure women and men in our community still to this day. A lot of Black Americans, a lot of African Americans are afraid to go to those people for fear that it goes against what they have been taught in Christianity. But you know who's not afraid to go to them? White folk. In case you didn't hear me, white folk, they will go to a Black woman and or a Black man. Your diehard Ray to the cyst won't, but those who claim to be allies or those who know the power and healing power that Africans possess, they'll go in a heartbeat. They will go. And I think we have to get back to, because what's happening now in this country, it's going to force us back to doing that. During the pandemic, it did kind of force us to go back to the way things were. A lot of Black people started making home remedy salves, um, homemade wine. They were selling different things out of their house the way that we used to. And I have a feeling that it's all going to go back to being that way again. But yeah, so this book is a really good book that you can read to your child. Again, it's called The Conjure Woman, written by William Miller, illustrated by Taria D. Schaefer. It's available on Amazon. The pictures are beautiful, really nice pictures, drawings of the different people that are in the story. So I would suggest you pick it up and read it to your child so that you can kind of introduce them to what a conjure is, what a conjure man or woman is, astral planing. So when they tell you that they dreamed something, you won't, think that they've lost their mind, because we do travel in our dreams. I travel in mine all the time. I remember I've had two dreams I dream about people that I don't know all the time, people I've never met before. I dream in different languages I don't speak, but they're in my dream. And I remember I dreamed once about an old African man. He was definitely a medicine man. And in the dream, he was telling me what I needed to do because I was having some health issues. And in the dream, he told me what I needed to do to help with my health issues. I dreamed about my father, who was not a stranger, but I've dreamed about him. And he's also told me things, you know. Now, am I following that advice? Not all the time. I'm not going to lie and say, ooh, I followed it and I cured. No, I know that I need to follow the advice of what they're telling me in the dreams. I also dreamed about an African woman. I don't know where we were. We were somewhere in Africa, and she took me to one of the highest mountains. I'm afraid of heights. She took me to one of the highest mountains and showed me this beautiful waterfall. And so you can dream about your ancestors, and they can take you places where you've never been before in a conscious state. Yeah, again, conjure woman. So yeah, so all you conjure women out there, thank you so much. So, and men, all you conjure women and men, thank you so much for what you do for the community. Even if the community doesn't recognize it, I recognize you, and I'm grateful for you. So that is tonight's um, reading. Again, I think I'll do one each Sunday. I'm going to read a book each Sunday. I have a lot of children's books because I'm a teaching artist and I usually work with kids. And so I buy a lot of books. And so we're going to be reading some of the books. I'm going to put them to good use. Yeah. So that's the Jelly Moose's Cafe. This was Hoodoo Sunday. I hope you guys have a great week. Have a great rest of your evening. Love each other. Stay positive. Stay Black. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Love and peace.